Today, I want to ask you a question. Do you ever want to speak to a native English speaker? Understand the conversation in English and understand how to move through the conversation. That's what we will talk about on today's episode of the Social English Podcast. Right after these words from Soda.
今日のエピソードでは英語圏である西欧諸国における特定の社会的状況についての重要なソーシャルイングリッシュのヒントをお教えします。アメリカ、カナダ、イギリス、その他の英語圏の国で実際に使えるように英会話のスキルアップに焦点を当てた社会的状況に関する大事なヒントを聞きながら学んでいきます。
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Social English Podcast. I am your host Percy, and I am pumped up and ready to give you an awesome new episode today. Okay? In today's episode, we're going to do some new things that I think you will definitely enjoy. If you are new to this podcast, don't forget or please understand this podcast. We have over 100 episodes ready to go in our archives. You can listen to them on your favorite podcast platforms. What we do here on the Social English Podcast is we help Japanese learners of English improve their English by learning conversational English and social English. Conversational English, culture of Western countries, and I focus on my country, America, where I'm from, as well as communication and how to be a better English conversationalist, how to speak better with your English. Okay, so you learn English grammar, you learn English sentences, but how do we speak to people in English, and what does it look like? Okay, and what does it sound like? That's what you can get here on the Social English Podcast. Today is going to be an episode that's probably more for your intermediate, or even not even intermediate. If you have learned English, maybe you have an English coach, you can understand my English pretty well at normal speeds. This is for you. For a beginner, this episode is too difficult for you, maybe to understand. But I encourage you to please listen anyway. Okay. Today, the topic is going to be special, and I guarantee you will like it. We are going to do many things. And when you learn English, you study English in high school, you study English in junior high school. We focus on, in Japan, you focus on learning about verbs, nouns, you learn about pronouns, you learn sentences, compound words, how to write a paragraph, how to write a sentence, things like this. So you have the understanding of basic English. So, today, just like what this podcast is for, we're talking about how to speak English, conversations. I want you to think about yourself. What do you want to do with your English? What do you want to do? That's my question to you. What is it that you want? Do you want to learn how to write English? Or do you want to learn how to write and speak English? One day, you want to go to Europe and go to the UK and see the famous sites like Big Ben, the River Thames, or I think the British call it Thames, and other things in the UK. Maybe you want to go to Australia. You want to hike Ayers Rock. You want to visit the Great Barrier Reef and the Sydney Opera House. You always watch Friends on Netflix. You really enjoy it. You really want to go visit New York City. You want to see the Statue of Liberty. You want to go to Times Square and enjoy all that New York has to offer. To do these things and enjoy them the best way possible, you should practice your speaking, conversational, and social English skills. You will have an amazing time. You will enjoy yourself much more. You will learn about the world and its people by gaining social English skills. So today, let's talk about these countries as a whole. New Zealand, Australia, the UK, Canada, and my country, America. We call those countries, in general, we just say the West. So, what does that mean for you? In most English-speaking countries in the West, we have a certain pattern in conversations. Unlike Japan, many people in the West like to speak to strangers. Yeah, you, especially if you are from another country. You may have 10, 15 people speak to you and try to have a conversation. So you need to understand that you should prepare. Here at Social English, we want to help you understand the patterns of conversations. That's what we'll be talking about. The reason is to help you understand where conversations are starting and what the person who speaks to you is trying to achieve. What the conversation is doing, where the conversation is going. I'm going to give you a structure today that you can use to learn this pattern. You can even use it by listening to other conversations and see if you can hear the parts of this basic conversation pattern. I want you to understand this pattern so you can get more comfortable with speaking English to other people. When you understand the pattern, you will understand how Western English speakers or native English speakers make and or construct their conversations. So what is this conversation pattern? I call it the IIWC pattern. This pattern is at the very beginning of a conversation, and it is even before the conversation starts. The IIWC pattern can start before you even have your first conversation with a new person. even before the first words are spoken. Now, this IIWC pattern that you will learn today is only for meeting people for the first time. This pattern happens the first time you meet someone. Okay? So this IIWC pattern, it's only the first time you meet a new person. Okay? This pattern works, and you can understand it for meeting people in your class, meeting people at a job, meeting someone at a bar, meeting someone at the park, or just meeting some random person in a social situation that wants to have a conversation with you, or you want to have a conversation with them. Picture you, okay? The image of you at the airport in San Francisco, and you're waiting for your plane, and someone waiting for their plane starts a conversation with you. This is a great time to know about the conversation because you learned it here on the Social English Podcast. So it's for meeting new people. Okay? It cannot, the IIWC pattern cannot be used for when you are shopping, ordering fast food, when you are buying clothes, when you're purchasing a movie theater ticket, when you go to the movie, or any business or service. That is not where you will use the IIWC pattern, or someone will use the IIWC pattern on you. Okay? Because that's not what today's podcast is about. Today's podcast is for conversation, interactions with new people. Okay. So what is the IIWC? This is the acronym or the letters for the interactions. Each letter means something. So what do the letters mean? Okay. The first I stands for icebreaker. The second I stands for introduction. The W stands for why. The Y. And C stands for continuance. To continue. Or what will continue. Or basically, what happens next? What happens next? Okay. So let me explain. I will explain more what these letters mean. The first I in icebreaker, it is the first action that starts the conversation. This I can even happen before a single word is said, but it immediately starts the conversation. The next action, the next letter, is the second I, which is your introduction. This is how you tell the person who you are, or they tell you who they are. The W is the why. Why you are talking to them, or why they are talking to you. And the last letter C is continuance, meaning where the conversation is going to go. What happens next?
この章を気に入っていただけたら、5つ星のレビューをぜひお願いします。コメントは英語か日本語でお書きいただければ喜んで読ませていただきます。リアルソーシャルイングリッシュ .com にアクセスしてぜひ無料でダウンロードしてください。ほとんどの日本人の英語を勉強している人がやってしまいがちな7つの間違いとその正しい言い方。また毎日英語を上達させるのに役立つ資料もたくさんあります。Apple Podcast、Google Podcast、Stitcher、そして今はパンドラでもポッドキャストを購読いただきます。支援者になっていただけませんか？私たちがこの賞を作るための支援として5ドルの寄付をお願いできませんか？今後のエピソードで感謝の気持ちをお伝えします。また、そこでしか利用できない新しいコンテンツも入手できます。patreon.com/socialenglish からご参加ください。ソーシャルメディアで私たちのポッドキャストを友達にシェアしたり、Twitter、Facebook、Instagram のフォローをお願いします。
So that is it, my friends. That is the IIWC pattern. This is the basic pattern of most real conversations from and to new people that don't know each other. Okay? We will go more in detail. Okay? So don't worry about that. I want you to understand why there is an IIWC pattern in conversations so that you can understand what it is and what it is for. Now, I will go through this pattern one by one and give you examples in the next episodes so you can fully understand and practice how to use this pattern. Also, in some conversations, the order is different. Some people like to put the introduction I after their YW. But all 4 parts are still used in most conversations. So it is very helpful to conversational English learners to study the IIWC pattern I am teaching you today. Why? So you can understand people, communicate, and have amazing conversations in English, and understand the culture of the country you visit and small things you will not learn in a class. Today's action item, what I want you to do today, I want you to memorize the IIWC pattern. Remember what each letter means. I for icebreaker, W for introduction. I for icebreaker, I for introduction, W for the why, C for continuance, or what happens next. That's all for today's episode. Remember, we'll talk more about each letter in the next episode. I will see you in that episode. So, with that being said, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and give us a 5-star review. Peace and love.
今日は楽しい時間をありがとうございました。ぜひ私たちのウェブサイト realsocialenglish.com を訪問して日本語訳と役立つ情報を手に入れてください。また次回お会いしましょう。バイバイ。See you next time. Bye bye.